right. Get ready to fire up those tractors because today we're diving into the world of Farming Simulator 25. And before you click away thinking, this isn't for me, trust me, this is about way more than just playing in the digital dirt. We're going to dig into some player insights, potential new features, and get this, connect it all back to real-world farming trends.
I know, right? It's really fascinating how this game has kind of become this cultural thing. It even sparks conversations about things like, sustainable agriculture and global food systems.
It really does. And the sources we're looking at today, it's not like just marketing hype either. We're talking
Mm-mm.
about what players are saying, the features they're most hyped for, and yeah, really digging into what it all means.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was reading about that really stood out to me was this whole discussion around ground deformation technology. And I know that might not sound super exciting right off the bat, but
Ground deformation technology.
yeah, it's actually a huge step forward in terms of the game's realism, like how realistic it is,
Yeah.
and also the strategy involved.
Okay, so like, what do you mean by ground deformation? Like the ground actually changes in the game.
Exactly. Imagine, like, instead of this flat, never-changing game map, the land, it actually becomes dynamic. Players can dig irrigation channels, like actual irrigation.
Wow.
They can create terraced fields, really mimicking those land management techniques that, real farmers have used for centuries.
So it's kind of like taking all those sustainable farming practices you hear about, but now you're actually seeing them play out
Yeah.
in a game. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
And it's fun, but it also adds a whole other level of strategy to the game, right? Because just like real life, you have to think about things like water management, soil erosion, how the terrain impacts your crops, all that.
And speaking of crops, I was reading about how they're adding two new types of rice. And, wait for it, spinach. Spinning. Like, I love a good salad, don't get me wrong, but it seems like a random thing to include in a farming simulator.
Yeah. I know, right? It might seem kind of random at first, but it actually points to a larger trend in agriculture, and that's crop diversification. People are becoming more aware of where their food's coming from, and the potential downsides of monoculture farming. That's where, you're only growing one type of crop.
Right,
So
right.
by having things like different types of rice and then even something like spinach, it shows how what people want to eat is changing and how farmers are adapting to meet that demand.
So it's like you're not just a farmer anymore, you're like an agricultural entrepreneur,
Yeah.
making decisions about what to grow, how to grow it, who to even sell it to.
Exactly. And it's not just about the crops themselves either, right? It's about all the challenges and opportunities that come with actually growing them. Different crops need different resources, they have different seasons, face different demands from the market. So, by putting that level of detail in there, Farming Simulator 25 lets players get their hands dirty, so to speak.
Right. You're really thrown right into the thick of it, and you really start to appreciate how complex running a farm is, even if it's a virtual one.
Yeah.
But okay, before we get too bogged down with all the economics of it all, can we talk about the visuals for a sec? Because I've heard they've really outdone themselves with the environments in this game.
Oh, yeah. They're really stunning, the visuals. But it's more than just pretty scenery. They've included all these diverse environments from those iconic rice paddies you see in East Asia to those wide open spaces of North America. And it's intentional.
Oh, okay, so it's not just about picking a map that looks cool. It's about choosing a location that comes with its own, like, challenges and opportunities.
Exactly. Growing rice in a terraced paddy field is a completely different experience from running a huge wheat farm in the middle of America. And the game reflects that.
So are we talking different climates, soil types, even different ways of irrigating and managing the land?
Absolutely. They really went above and beyond to make each environment feel different and, authentic, like even down to the types of crops that would actually thrive in those places. And I think that's really where this game it shines. It's not just about the mechanics of farming. It's about like pulling you into all the diversity and complexity of agriculture around the world.
It really makes you think about, like, all the different ways people farm around the world.
Right. It's not just one thing. And it's so connected to the place, the culture, the history.
Yeah, for sure. It's really got me thinking about my own grocery shopping, I'll tell you that. But speaking of things I never thought I'd see in a farming simulator, I heard they're adding buffaloes to the game.
It's true.
Buffaloes.
Yeah. And it's not just a funny little addition either. Although,
Okay.
I mean, come on. A herd of buffaloes roaming around your virtual farm, kind of hilarious.
Okay, yeah. So why buffaloes? What's the big deal?
Well, think about it, right? We're talking about realism, diverse farming practices, global food systems. Buffaloes, especially water buffalo, are super important for agriculture in a lot of the world,
Hmm.
especially in Asia.
Oh, right. I remember reading about how they're used to plow, like rice paddies and things like that.
Exactly. They're strong, they're adaptable, perfect for those places where tractors wouldn't really work or make sense. Plus, they're useful for like milk, meat, even leather. So they're really valuable to farmers in a lot of places.
It's like the Swiss Army knife of livestock. Although I have to admit, when I think of buffaloes, I mostly picture those images. The farmers with water buffalo plowing rice fields in Southeast Asia. So to see that in a game like this, it's amazing.
And that's the thing. It shows how much they care about getting the details right, about showing the huge variety of ways people farm.
Yeah, yeah.
And adding buffaloes, it also kind of hints at this growing interest in sustainability and diversifying what livestock you have, you know? It's not all about cows and pigs anymore.
So are you saying my virtual farm isn't complete without a herd of buffaloes grazing around?
Hey, it's something to think about. But really, it just goes to show how Farming Simulator can actually make you think about these things, you know? Sustainable food production, alternative livestock, all that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like the game is kind of subtly getting players to think outside the box, at least when it comes to farming.
And that's what I find so exciting. It's not trying to preach, just create a space where you can explore these ideas, like try different techniques, see what's good and bad about different livestock, and get a feel for how interconnected everything is, our whole food system.
It's taking something that could be honestly kind of boring and making it fun. Who knew a game about farming could make you think so much?
That's the beauty of it. It sneaks up on you. One minute you're trying to get the best crop yield, the next you're thinking about the environmental impact of your virtual farm. It's great.
At this point, I think the people who made this game deserve some kind of award,
Mm.
like an honorary degree in agricultural education or something.
They've definitely created something unique. It's fun, but it's real. And that's how you bridge that gap between the games we play and the real problems, like the ones facing agriculture.
And it's not like players are going into it thinking, I'm going to learn about sustainable agriculture today.
Hmm.
They're just having fun.
Right. It's such a good example of how games can be used to teach, even to create change. When learning is fun, when you're really immersed, these complex issues, they just click.
It's like hiding vegetables in a smoothie. Gets you every time.
Eh?
But really, it makes you think. If a game about farming can get people this fired up, imagine the potential for tackling real-world problems.
That's what's so important here. There's so much information thrown at us all the time. But when you experience something yourself, even virtually, that's when it really sinks in.
It's like reading about how rice is grown is one thing, but having to actually do it, even in a game, managing the water, dealing with the crops, the market, all that, suddenly it's real.
Exactly. And when you have that deeper understanding, you can make better choices, whether it's supporting those sustainable farms or just like appreciating what it takes to get food on your plate.
So bringing this back around, what's the takeaway here? What do we want our listeners to remember?
Remember to be curious and that you can find amazing things in the most unexpected places. Farming Simulator might seem like it's just about tractors and crops but it's got people talking about all this stuff. Sustainable farming, global food systems, it's pretty deep.
It's a good reminder that there's always more to the story. And sometimes the best way to learn is when you don't even realize you are.
Exactly. And hey, who knows? Maybe this will inspire someone out there to go check out a local farm or try something new from the farmer's market. Or at least, like next time you sit down for dinner, you might think about everything that went into it, getting that food to your table.
I think that's the perfect place to wrap up. So until next time, keep those tractors running, those minds open, and remember, never underestimate a good deep dive.